Hi everyone! So today we are going to introduce pen and ink techniques. You are going to need a pencil, an eraser, a fine or an ultra fine Sharpie. If you have any microns, you can use them. If you don't worry. If you don't have microns or a Sharpie, you can use any type of fine point pen. This can be a felt pen or a gel pen, as long as it's blue or black. You could also use any standard ballpoint pen. Here's what you cannot use. Please do not use a thick point Sharpie. This is going to be too big for us today. You are also going to need several sheets of paper. I'm just using printer paper. So let's go ahead and get started. First things first is I am going to take this sheet of paper and we are going to get it prepped for our assignment. So what I'd like you to do is take your piece of paper, fold it in half, please. And then we're going to fold it in half again. I like creasing the paper just that way I get a nice crisp line. It's easy to see. And then we're going to fold it one more time. Okay, I lied. One more time. So I'm going to take this big one and I'm going to now rotate it and fold it in half again. Okay, now that our paper's prepped, we're going to actually start learning our stuff. So I'm going to put my name at the top. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. And I'm going to encourage you all to do this whole assignment in the pen of your choice. And if you want to change colors between black and blue, that's totally fine. So the first technique I'm going to go over is called hatching. And hatching is basically a set of parallel lines. They never overlap and they never cross. So you can have hatching at an angle. You can have hatching that's straight. It can be horizontal or vertical. But what you'll notice is they never cross. They always stay together. They can also be really long hatch lines, or you can have really short hatch lines. I'm going to kind of stick in the middle. So what we're going to do in each box is with the technique is we are going to learn it, try it, and then we're going to do a value scale going from dark to light all the way across. I'm going to start dark, and when I want to make an area dark, I'm going to slow my pen down so more ink comes out, and I'm going to push those lines really close together, trying not to have them overlap. And as I get further away, I'm going to pick up my line speed so there's not quite as much ink coming out. And then I'm going to make it get wider and further apart. The next one we're going to go over is cross hatching. Now this is similar to parallel line or hatching, except that we actually have stuff go on top. So start down with your hatch lines, and then you're going to go the opposite direction on top and hatch over the cross. And then we're going to do it again at a diagonal, keeping our lines parallel, again in the opposite. So you can see it's already getting darker here. So we can have short ones, or again, we can have long ones. Opposite. And wherever we want it darker, we just layer on top. Just remember, keep your nib slow and close for dark. Slow and close for dark. And then as you want to get lighter, quick and further apart. So, horizontal, vertical, and then we can go at our diagonals. And you can see where I've been touching this nib at the beginning, it's gotten really dark, and then it's kind of middle and light. Our third technique we're going to do is little hashtags or tic-tac-toes. Simple little tic-tac-toe boards. And again, they can be short or they can be large. They can be straight. They can be at angles. Does not matter which way or how big you make them. Just know the smaller they are, the lighter they'll be, and the same rules apply. The slower I drag my nib or my pen, the more the ink will flow and the darker I can make them. So now let's do our value scale. Our fourth technique that we are going to learn is a contour. This is not the contour where you can't lift your pen. This is just a contour, meaning that the line curves. So we can have a contour that's a single line that's curving just one direction. It's almost like a ripple if you think of a pebble getting dropped in water. But this could also belong to any sort of wavy line, that the line just gets further away as the value decreases or gets lighter. So you can do your contour line simple, just little bow out that way. You could try a more complex one, but just know that contour line means it's not straight. So we're not doing hashing where it's just a single line, or cross hatching that's overlapping. These are similar to parallel or hatching in the way that they're not overlapping, they're just next to each other, but they're not straight. These are really good for curved forms. So now let's do our value scale. Our fifth pen technique is probably my favorite technique, but it is challenging. It's called the scribble. Yes, that is its real name, is the scribble. Here's the thing with the scribble. It's not a consistent loop. That's like a loopy line when we went over our line lecture. This is an erratic, ever-changing line that just keeps going. This is that contour skill where you don't pick up your pen when you want that dark area. The goal is to change the direction constantly. So again, it's not a predictable line. It's an erratic, ever-changing line. And again, if you slow your scribbling down, you'll get a nice bleed in your pen tip if you're using a felt tip pen like a Sharpie, and it'll lighten when you speed up and separate your line. The next technique is going to be stippling or dots. It's really important that you keep your pen close to the paper and not high above it. If you are too high above it, you'll hear a loud tapping from the pen, which means you could be messing up the felt tip. If you hear that, you're too far away. You want to be close to the paper. So it's a softer tapping that you will hear. So the last one for this column is going to be our line dot combo. Now I like to do this with straight lines or curved lines, just depending on the form that I want to use. So I'm going to do hatch line and then some dots that kind of go with it. And then I'm going to repeat the process, changing the direction each time, going up, back and forth, and changing where the dots are and how many dots I have. But it's the same rule. The further apart they are, the lighter it's going to get. So this is just a combination, line, dot, line. And you can have 3 dots, 4 dots, 2 dots, does not matter. But it's just a combination of putting together hatch lines and stippling. All right, so we have finished our first side, and these are kind of our traditional pen and ink techniques. We have hatching, just the parallel lines, cross hatching, where they're changing directions. We have hashtags, contour, my favorite, scribble, stippling or dots, and then our last one is line dots. Now on the right side of our paper, we are going to learn some textures. So leaf, ripple, pine, shape, text, and bark are going to be the techniques that I show you on this side. So for leaf, it is going to be a couple little loops together or apart, but this is the shape we're going to do. I like them together, so this tends to be the technique that I use. And again, slow your nib down, nice and dark and bold, or quick lines to make them lighter. For this next one, we're gonna do a ripple. So I kind of just start with a little circle, and then I start doing contour lines around it, and those contour lines get bigger. So a little center, rippling out with contour lines. And when I bump into another shape, I just carry from that form over until I feel like it's good. The inside part of the ripple, the lines are going to be nice and close and tight, and the further away I get, the faster my pen moves and the wider the white space is in between. Okay, the next one is called Pine, and it's very similar to hatching, except we're just not going to take the lines and keep them in one direction. We're going to layer them in multiples. So I'm going to go down to my left, and I'm going to then change directions and go down to my right. I call this pine because it looks like a little pine tree, and then the further away, the lighter it gets. And these don't have to line up completely. Some people like to take these and also make it look like a zigzag form by lining them up close. So you can take this any direction you want, but it's very similar to hatching. You're just changing the angle or direction that you are going, so up and down, to get a zigzag form going. Or you can treat it like a bunch of little pine trees, and you can do the little pine needles. Sometimes people will take these and they look like little grass patches. This also works. So we could do this down at the bottom. I'll do a couple so you can see a couple different little scales. Next one's called Shape, and you can do this one with any shape of your choice. You could do spirals, triangles, little stars, but the goal is to just take your shape of choice and to play with the size and the closeness and overlap, and then just make a value scale with it. It doesn't matter what shape you use. Just make sure that whatever shape you pick, that you stick to it for your value scale. I'm going to do one, I think, in spiral and star, so you can see them traveling across, and I'm going to play with size and distance. Next one is called Text, and this is just picking any type of word or lyric or just simple ABCs and writing the letters close together, changing directions, but not actually overlapping the letters, just playing with size and direction and knowing that they don't have to all be the same every time. They could be upside down, sideways, any which way. But you can pick any text. Your name is probably easy to start, or you can just do ABC, and we're gonna, again, do a little value scale. Last one for this handout is I'm going to show you how I like to do tree bark, and it's super similar to line dot. So I'm going to go down, maybe have a couple blips. Then by blips, I mean like little points or jagged edges. So up, a couple little blips, some dots or line dashes. And this again is something that's kind of erratic. It doesn't have to be any type of pattern, and really shouldn't be. We want to make sure that it's random, so it's organic. We don't want to have any type of grid work. We want to make sure that it is just flowing natural for us, and it's not consistent, so that erratic line similar to scribble. And just remember, the closer you make them, the darker the value, the lighter and further apart, the lighter the value. All right, everyone, here's my finished example. I hope that you have all your techniques and you've gotten the hang of it. Please make sure you do this in pen and you turn it in pen, don't turn it in pencil.